The wind howls across the jagged mountains. The year is 214 BC, and the first emperor of China is about to build the greatest wall the world has ever seen.
The Qin Dynasty, under the iron fist of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, has embarked on the most colossal engineering project in human history. You are an ordinary conscript, a farmer torn from your fertile fields in the south, thrust into a freezing, unforgiving wasteland. The dawn has not yet broken, but the camp is already stirring with the sounds of misery and forced labor. Tens of thousands of men, shivering beneath thin layers of coarse hemp, begin to rise from the hard, frost-covered ground. The air is thick with the acrid smoke of dying watchfires and the stench of unwashed bodies. You take a deep, trembling breath, feeling the icy air sear your lungs. Your hands, once soft from planting rice, are now calloused, cracked, and permanently stained with the pale, chalky dust of pounded earth. Today, like every day, your survival depends on endurance. The overseers, clad in thick leather armor and wielding cruel bamboo canes, march through the sprawling encampment, shouting orders that shatter the morning silence. They demand progress, and the emperor demands perfection. The construction of the long wall is not merely about stacking stones, it is about taming the wild northern frontier, creating an impenetrable barrier against the fierce Xiongnu nomads who raid the borders. You grab your rudimentary tools, a wooden rammer and a wicker basket, and join the endless river of humanity trudging up the steep, treacherous mountain paths. Every step is an agonizing effort, your muscles screaming in protest. The landscape is a brutal symphony of gray rock and brown earth, devoid of warmth or comfort. As the sun finally crests the horizon, casting long, haunting shadows over the valleys, you see the sheer magnitude of the task ahead. The wall stretches out like a giant, earthen dragon, crawling endlessly over the peaks and dipping into the gorges. It is a monument to both human ingenuity and unfathomable suffering. You are but a single grain of sand in this vast desert of labor, a nameless builder whose sweat and blood will forever be mixed into the mortar of this mighty structure. The sheer scale of the project is terrifying. Millions of tons of earth and stone must be moved by hand. There are no machines, no beasts of burden here, only the raw, breaking strength of men. As you reach your designated section, the rhythmic, deafening thud of wooden rammers hitting packed earth fills the air. The rhythm dictates your life now. You lift, you strike, you breathe. You are no longer a farmer, you are a builder of the Great Wall, caught in a relentless cycle of toil under the watchful eyes of the Emperor's guards, living a day that feels like an eternity. The morning labor commences with a brutal intensity that leaves no room for hesitation. Year 214 BC, on the northern frontier of the Qin Dynasty, the Great Wall's construction site becomes a hive of frantic, grueling activity. You stand at the edge of a towering wooden frame, the foundation for the next segment of the rammed earth wall. Your assignment today is the tamping crew, a task that requires rhythm, immense physical strength, and unyielding focus. A team of 6 men, including yourself, grasps the ropes attached to a heavy, iron-bound wooden pounder. The overseer, a stern veteran of the Emperor's campaigns, beats a slow, steady rhythm on a hide drum. With each heavy strike of the drum, you and your comrades heave the massive tamping tool into the air, muscles straining, tendons snapping taut under the skin. As the drumbeat drops, you pull down with all your might, slamming the heavy pounder into the loose earth inside the wooden forms. The impact sends a violent, jarring shockwave up your arms, rattling your teeth and vibrating deep within your chest. You must repeat this motion hundreds of times an hour, compressing the soil until it is as hard as solid rock. The earth here is unforgiving, a mixture of local loess, gravel, and sometimes branches of tamarisk, all bound together by the sweat of the laborers. Dust rises in thick, choking clouds, coating your skin, filling your nose, and stinging your eyes. You blink away the gritty sweat, careful not to break the rhythm. To lose the beat is to risk a harsh lashing from the overseer's bamboo cane, a punishment that has left many men permanently scarred or worse. Around you, the mountains echo with the cacophony of ancient construction. Thousands of other workers are engaged in equally punishing tasks. Some are carrying heavy wicker baskets filled with raw earth, transporting them up impossibly steep mountain trails. The paths are narrow and slippery with morning frost, and a single misstep can mean a fatal plunge into the jagged ravines below. You watch as a young man, barely out of his teenage years, stumbles under the immense weight of his load. His basket spills, the precious earth scattering across the rocks. The guards are upon him instantly, their shouts mixing with his cries for mercy. You look away, forcing your attention back to the rhythm of the heavy tamping pounder. Empathy is a dangerous luxury on the wall. You must conserve every ounce of energy for your own survival. The sun climbs higher into the pale, cloudless sky, but it offers little warmth. The wind remains a constant, biting enemy, slicing through your thin hemp garments and chilling the sweat on your skin. Thirst begins to claw at your throat, a dry, raspy ache that makes swallowing difficult. Water is a strictly rationed commodity, brought up from the distant river valleys in heavy clay jugs. You long for a single drop, but you know that the water carrier will not arrive until the sun reaches its zenith. So, you endure. You channel the pain into the pounding rhythm, letting the repetitive motion numb your mind. You think of your family back in the warm, lush south, picturing the emerald green rice paddies and the gentle rain. It is a fleeting, painful memory, quickly shattered by the crack of a whip and the harsh command of a guard. You are brought back to the brutal reality of the Qin Mountains. The work is endless, the conditions are inhumane, but the wall must rise. It is the Emperor's will, and his will is absolute. You heave the pounder into the air once more, your breath forming a white cloud in the freezing air, surrendering your body to the relentless machine of the Qin Dynasty's grand ambition, a living testament to endurance. As the sun finally reaches its peak, glaring down upon the harsh terrain, the midday struggles begin to test the absolute limits of human endurance. It is high noon in the year 214 BC, and the Great Wall construction site transforms from a freezing nightmare into a suffocating dust bowl. A brief, almost imperceptible pause is granted by the barking overseers, signaling the midday ration. You collapse onto the hard, packed earth, your chest heaving as you try to draw clean air into your dust-filled lungs. Your muscles twitch involuntarily, trembling from the agonizing strain of the morning's endless pounding. The water carrier finally arrives, an older man with a heavily scarred face, struggling under the weight of massive clay urns suspended from a wooden yoke across his shoulders. The men scramble, holding out their small, chipped clay bowls with desperate, shaking hands. When your turn comes, the water poured into your bowl is murky, lukewarm, and tastes faintly of mud, yet it feels like the nectar of the gods. You drink it slowly, swirling the liquid around your parched mouth, savoring every precious drop before swallowing. Following the water comes the food ration. It is a meager portion of boiled millet and a small piece of salted, pickled vegetable. There is no meat, no rich broth, only the bare minimum required to keep a man standing. You eat in silence, surrounded by thousands of others who share your exhausted, hollow-eyed expression. The noise of the camp is subdued now, replaced by the collective sounds of chewing and heavy breathing. You glance at the man sitting beside you, a scholar from the conquered state of Zhao, conscripted as punishment for his intellectual descent. His hands, once used only for holding delicate bamboo scrolls and writing brushes, are now ruined, covered in bleeding blisters and deep cuts. He offers you a weary, broken smile, a silent acknowledgement of your shared misery. The midday respite is agonizingly short. Before your body can truly rest, the sharp, authoritative crack of the overseer's drum shatters the brief peace. It is time to return to the wall. The afternoon brings a new set of challenges. The temperature fluctuates wildly, the biting wind remains, but the direct sunlight reflecting off the pale lush soil creates a blinding, disorienting glare. You are reassigned from the tamping crew to the stone transport division. Your task is to move massive, rough-hewn granite blocks from the quarry site up to the ridge where a new watchtower is being erected. This requires teamwork, coordination, and a terrifying amount of sheer force. You and a dozen other men wrap thick, rough hemp ropes around a colossal stone block. Wooden rollers are placed beneath it to reduce friction, but the incline is incredibly steep. At the command of the foreman, you all pull in unison, screaming in exertion. The rope bites deep into your shoulders, chafing the skin raw and leaving bloody welts. Every inch of progress is a hard-fought battle against gravity and exhaustion. The stone groans and shifts on the wooden rollers, a massive, dangerous beast that threatens to crush anyone who falters. The air is thick with tension and fear. You watch your footing carefully, the loose gravel on the path offers little traction. A slip here would not only mean failure but likely death under the crushing weight of the granite. You close your eyes for a fraction of a second, praying to your ancestors for strength, before digging your worn sandals into the dirt and pulling with everything you have left. The wall demands sacrifice, and every heavy stone moved is a testament to the blood and sweat of the Emperor's unwilling army, struggling against the impossible odds. The afternoon wears on, bringing with it a dangerous combination of deep physical fatigue and hazardous working conditions. In this remote expanse of the Qin Dynasty in 214 BC, the Great Wall construction site is fraught with peril at every turn. You are still hauling the immense granite blocks up the treacherous incline toward the watchtower foundation. The sun begins its slow descent, casting long, deceptive shadows that obscure the uneven, rocky ground. This is the most dangerous time of day, when tired minds lose focus and exhausted bodies make fatal mistakes. Suddenly, a sharp, terrifying crack echoes down the mountain pass. You look up in horror to see that a hemp rope holding a massive stone on an upper tier has snapped under the extreme tension. Panic erupts instantly. Shouts of warning fill the air as the enormous block of granite breaks loose, hurtling down the steep, narrow path. Men scramble desperately to get out of the way, diving into the rough scrub brush and clinging to the steep cliff walls. You throw yourself to the dirt, covering your head with your arms as the runaway stone thunders past, smashing wooden scaffolding into splinters and sending up a massive cloud of blinding dust. The sheer force of the impact shakes the very mountain beneath you. When the dust finally settles, the devastating toll becomes tragically clear. The crushed remains of the wooden ramp lie in ruins, and several laborers who were unable to escape the boulder's path are severely injured. The overseers quickly restore order, their faces grim and unsympathetic. There is no time for mourning. The emperor's deadline looms over them like a dark cloud. The injured are hastily dragged away to the rudimentary medical tents, their fates uncertain, while the rest of the crew is immediately ordered back to work to repair the damaged scaffolding. You brush the heavy layer of dust from your trembling arms and resume your position on the ropes. The fear is palpable, lingering in the air like a foul scent. It forces you to remain hypervigilant, carefully testing every foothold and constantly checking the tension of the ropes. As you reach the construction zone of the watchtower, you witness the intricate, dizzying work of the masons. They are balanced precariously on narrow wooden planks suspended hundreds of feet above a plunging gorge. Without the aid of safety harnesses, they maneuver heavy stones into place, their lives depending entirely on their sense of balance and the strength of the flimsy wooden platforms. A sudden gust of mountain wind howls through the valley, swaying the scaffolding violently. You hold your breath, watching a mason struggle to maintain his footing. He drops his wooden mallet to grab a support beam, his face pale with terror. The mallet plummets into the abyss, disappearing from sight long before you hear it strike the rocks below. It is a chilling reminder of the precarious nature of your existence here. Death is a constant companion on the wall, waiting patiently for a single moment of weakness. You push the grim thoughts from your mind, focusing intensely on the immediate task. You help guide your granite block into its designated slot, using heavy wooden levers to perfectly align the edges. The satisfaction of completing the task is immediately drowned out by the realization that thousands more blocks await at the bottom of the valley. The grueling cycle continues without pause, a brutal test of human resilience amidst the perilous slopes, as you battle gravity, fatigue, and the ever-present shadow of the emperor's unyielding ambition to fortify his vast empire against the northern invaders. The sky begins to turn a bruised purple, signaling the approaching dusk, yet the relentless pace of the labor does not slow. Your hands are bleeding freely now, the rough ropes having worn completely through your calluses, but you cannot stop pulling. Every fiber of your being aches with a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. The fading light of dusk finally brings the long, grueling day to a close, casting an eerie, twilight glow over the colossal structure. It is the evening of the year 214 BC, and the Qin Dynasty's Great Wall construction site slowly transitions from a chaotic battlefield of labor to a somber camp of exhausted survivors. The heavy beating of the overseer's drum changes its rhythm, signaling the end of the shift. A collective, silent sigh of relief ripples through the thousands of dirt-covered men. You drop your wooden lever, your arms feeling like lead weights attached to your shoulders. Every joint in your body aches, and your spine feels permanently curved from the hours of bending and lifting. Slowly, painfully, you join the massive line of men trudging back down the winding mountain paths toward the sprawling encampment in the valley. The air turns freezing cold the moment the sun dips below the horizon, the biting wind returning with a vengeance to strip away the sweat from your skin. You wrap your thin, tattered hemp jacket tightly around yourself, shivering uncontrollably. Upon reaching the camp, the evening routine is stark and miserable. Fires are lit in shallow fire pits, providing a meager source of warmth and a small amount of light in the gathering darkness. You gather around a flickering fire with your work group, huddled close together to share body heat. The evening ration is distributed, another small bowl of watery millet porridge. You eat it ravenously, scraping the bottom of the clay bowl to ensure not a single grain is wasted. The camp is filled with the low murmurs of men speaking in hushed tones, sharing stories of their distant homes, their families, and their past lives. The scholar from Zhao, sitting across the fire from you, begins to quietly recite a poem about the southern rivers, his voice trembling with unshed tears. For a brief moment, the brutal reality of the Qin Mountains fades away, replaced by the vivid, beautiful imagery of his words. You close your eyes, letting the memory of green fields and warm spring breezes wash over you. But the illusion is fragile, shattered by the groans of the injured men in the nearby tents and the distant howling of a wolf pack echoing through the dark valleys. You stare up at the night sky, completely clear and densely packed with brilliant, glittering stars. They look exactly as they did back home, a comforting yet painful reminder of the vast distance separating you from everything you love. As you finally lay down on your thin straw mat, the hard, frozen ground biting into your back, you reflect on the sheer scale of what you are a part of. The Great Wall is a monstrous creation, built on the suffering and bones of hundreds of thousands of ordinary men like yourself. It is a symbol of the Emperor's absolute power and his desperate desire to control the world. Yet, as sleep slowly overtakes your exhausted mind, dragging you down into a dreamless oblivion, a tiny spark of profound resilience remains alive within your heart. You survived today. You endured the freezing cold, the back-breaking labor, and the ever-present danger. Tomorrow, the overseer's drum will wake you before dawn, and the brutal cycle will begin all over again. But for tonight, you rest. You are a builder of the Long Wall, an unsung hero of the ancient world, sleeping beneath the stars in the year 214 BC, gathering the microscopic fragments of your strength to face the dawn of another punishing day. The wind continues to whistle through the temporary wooden watchtowers, a relentless lullaby for the damned and the determined alike. As the embers of the fire slowly die out, plunging the camp into total darkness, your breathing finally steadies. You are merely one man among millions, yet your silent endurance forms the very foundation of an empire's legacy.